So the first question is really broad. Tell me any of the history that you know about her, and who built her and when.
Sure. The boat was built in 1935, and I first saw the boat in about 1980 up in Ketchikan packing fish. And I don't know anything prior to 80 what really happened, but I can tell because you get an abstract of title if you request one and so I have an abstract even with me today that tells who owned the boat. And this had a lot of owners between 1935 when it was built and now.
Yeah.
I'm the last owner, obviously. I bought it in 1993, so I've had the boat for 28 years. And what I understand is that, and Brooke, you can look at this if you want, and if you want to write some stuff down or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I understand is that it was built for herring fishing.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen one of these abstract tiles or not.
No,
before.
I haven't.
So it's cool. Since this is an official documented boat through the U.S. government.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right. They keep track of everything and all the owners, and it's much like a recording office in a town. And so let's just run to the last page real quick, which would be the earliest entries, I believe.
Once we're done recording, I'll take a picture
with
my phone.
Go ahead.
So it has I have a reel.
So what do we got here? 1935.
Okay.
And in Ketchikan. So this is actually a local boat from 1935.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yes. Whoever these unpronounceable guys' names are, who had the boat built. There's one. I looked at it this morning. Sorry. I'll let you photograph better. But anyway, it was built as a herring seiner for Southeast Alaska.
Okay.
And up in the the Midwestern Southeast Alaska, there was a big herring fishery around Point Gardner and down Chatham Straits to the south end.
Yeah.
They had herring reduction plants in all the bays back there, and not all the bays, but several of the bays.
Yeah.
And they had whaling stations back there.
Oh,
this is post whaling station. Whaling station was probably more like turn of the century, right?
Okay.
So the whales probably followed the herring, and so did the fishermen, right?
Yeah.
So this was built as a herring seiner. So it spent many years up there herring seining with. I would assume that it had a turntable on there with no power block. There was no mechanical advantage.
Yeah.
Basically. So, and when we rebuilt the deck here a couple of years ago, we saw the big timbers underneath the deck where the turntable was mounted to.
Okay, so what is it? What is a turntable?
Well, a turntable was a big, I would say a big disc. I've never used one, but it was like a big disc where when you pulled the net on board by hand, you could turn.
Oh.
And so you could help stack the gear.
Okay.
On the back deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a lot of labor. The boat I'm guessing, probably had 8 to 10 guys on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
no big modern power skiffs, and I don't know if they used gas boats to tow the other end or if they just set the end out with a rowboat that held in position and they circled it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I imagine with a boat this size, and the net is going to be.
I would think it'd be fairly big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then very heavy, obviously, when you're full of herring. And then they did use mechanical. They had a purse winch on the back.
Okay.
Which was chain driven or line driven off of the engine. And so there you had the power to affect everything, whether it was line driven for the winch, and then it controlled the boom lines and everything else to get the herring out. Yeah, in brailers.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work, but I have a feeling they made a lot of money back then.
Worth it.
Yeah. And Port. Where did I see this? Port out. I'm trying to think of the name of the town up there. Anyway, take a couple photos of this, and you'll recognize some Southeast, names. But that's the early history. Was that it had that it was built as a seiner.
How cool! Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have the I don't know where I got this. I don't know why I got this. But I have a builder certificate when I register the boat the first time.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah. So it signs off who built the boat
Okay.
and where it was built. It was built in Tacoma
Okay.
at Western Boat Company in Tacoma.
Okay.
Oh, and here's the original buyer here.
All right.
Politz.
Politz in Port Armstrong.
Port Armstrong.
Okay.
Yeah. And that Port Armstrong was one of those areas I was talking about.
Awesome.
Back in 35. And I think they even had a value there, fair market value of $22,000 back in the day.
Wow. Gosh, that's got to be. Do the math on
Well,
that.
I can't even imagine. Well,
Yeah.
it's what it is today, right? You build a new boat and it's $3 million or $4 million.
Yeah. So yeah, herring were worth a pretty penny then, huh?
I think they made a lot of money back then.
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, that's great. So that answers, the next questions I have as part of that was when she was built. Do you know by whom? Answered that. Does she do the job she was built for? So she was built for a herring. And
she was built to herring seine, and she doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the last remnants of seining I found on the boat was when we rebuilt the deck. Like I say, we took the old pursuance off about 20 years ago. The big, huge drums, and and you could tell where it was driven, shaft driven. It had been converted to hydraulic. So the last remnants of its fishing days were probably the pursuance. Although when we replaced the timbers on the back deck, we tore out some of where the turntable was mounted.
Yeah.
And then in the lazarette, after the boat, I found one cork float from an old time seine. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's probably one of the last things that has anything to do with seine on this boat.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it does not fish anymore. We've fished crab with it.
Okay.
But not, and it wasn't designed as a crab boat, but we fished king crab and tanner crab with it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.